Hello again and welcome to the WSBI-ESBG Exchange podcast for the week of 27 January 2020. I'm James Pieper, Senior Advisor for Communications at the two associations, with a mission to help savings and retail banks thrive. This is episode 11. We are bringing in our WSBI SCALE2SAVE team to fill us in on the latest on the SCALE2SAVE program that helps 6 African countries make small-scale savings work. Like every podcast, we highlight news from the world of savings and retail banks in some 80 countries around the globe. As I just noted, this week we continue to focus on Africa. WSBI published in December 2019 new research on young people in Africa. It was released under the SCALE2SAVE program. This latest SCALE2SAVE research outlines ways to drive financial inclusion by reaching more African youth. Increasing financial access in Africa is a struggle. It's the struggle to stay ahead of surging growth in the numbers of young people. Joining us now to talk about SCALE2SAVE are Ian Radcliffe, Weselina Angelow, and Céline Stevens, who all work here at WSBI in Brussels. Thanks for coming. Let's start off with an update of SCALE2SAVE and how things are going. So maybe Ian, you could kick things off.
Okay, well, we've had a great year over the past year. We've now got 10 projects signed up on SCALE2SAVE. Recent months, we've signed memoranda of understanding with Centenary Bank, with Finca in Uganda, and also Finca International. And then just recently, we've signed another one with BRAC in Uganda. So 10 projects in total, 10 very exciting projects. Some of them are now past their pilot phases. They've achieved their pilot KPIs and they're moving on. Then apart from that, on the research components, the big thing that we've done in the past couple of months is we've launched our study on youth, which Weselina is going to be talking about in a few moments. Last year, it may be remembered that we produced a report on savings and retail banking in Africa, and this is an annual report, and in the next week or two, or whenever, we're going to be publishing the second edition of that. We're continuing with market research in all the individual countries, and we've done some great dissemination events. We held a very big peer learning event in Mombasa in March last year, and a second one in Washington, D.C. in October. Then in terms of just spreading the message, because that's really important, over the past year we've been at conferences in Victoria Falls in Zimbabwe. We've been at the European Investment Bank in Luxembourg. There's been SEEP conferences and webinars. We had a tremendous event at the World Bank in Washington, D.C. when we participated in their roundtable on Universal Financial Access 2020.
That was in October, I think.
That was October, yeah. Yes. And it was it's all linked to the World Bank and IMF's annual meetings. And then apart from that, I mean, it's something which, James, you know about very well. We've developed a series of videos which are all available on our website. Then probably the final thing that's happened in the past year is that because the program is now at roughly its midway point, we had our midterm evaluation, and this is where we worked with a firm of American evaluators called Market Share Associates. They spent between April and November in 2019 talking to us, to all of our partners, and really getting to understand the program. And I'm very glad that from our perspective anyway, that we got a positive report, good positive report out of that, but a lot of recommendations which going forward I think will be very, very helpful.
Well, they always say make your great better, so maybe that's what we're going to be doing.
That's exactly it.
Thanks for that, Ian. Now, it's time to tell us more about the new partners in Uganda. So BRAC Uganda and Centenary. And Weselina Angelow is here, and she's going to tell us a little bit more about those. So Weselina, thanks for being on the podcast.
Yes, right. So Ian mentioned it. BRAC Uganda Bank Limited is our newest and 10th partner in the program. BRAC Uganda Bank Limited transitioned from BRAC Microfinance Limited last year, and it became a Tier 2 bank in April 2019. So for us, this is particularly exciting because we will be able to build digital savings from scratch with this new partner.
I got a question. What's a Tier 2 bank for our listeners who may not know what that is?
So BRAC is now able to offer formal savings to Ugandans. And it is also interesting because about 76% of Ugandan adults are living in rural areas, and BRAC is the Uganda institution that has the biggest rural outreach in the country. So we hope to be able to roll out savings through their 160 rural outlets. We will also test roving agents, which is rather innovative in East Africa. And with our second partner in Uganda, Centenary Bank, who is already a pioneer in agency banking in the country, we also hope to tap into this rural market. With Centenary Bank, we will also be testing shared agency infrastructure, and we will be testing a product that allows customers to onboard other customers. So we are really tapping into the word of mouth, which has a very strong impact, particularly in rural areas. And overall, we are working with 3 partners in Uganda. So Finca International is our third partner. And so we hope to be able to bank some 400,000 people in the country.
Between the 3 projects?
Between the 3 program partners, yes.
So that's about 40% of our stated aim, it sounds like. That's
correct.
Okay,
yes.
Cool. Well, maybe we should talk about some other projects that are being done in other countries. So maybe Céline Stevens, who's with us, she works on the Scale2Save team. Tell us a little bit more about maybe a project or 2 that you think listeners need to know about.
Yes, James. So today I want to share with you some exciting news about Morocco. As you might remember, we launched a project with Albright Bank and Buried Cash back in 2017 to develop a digital payment ecosystem in the country. One of the objectives of the bank was to equip all the different actors from the value chain with a mobile payment application, so from the customer to the smaller merchant and then to major retailers. Despite all the great efforts done by the bank to digitalize the payments in Morocco, the attachment from the clients to the cash remains very strong, and the uptake of the mobile payment ecosystem is a bit shy. But it seems that the tide has now turned, and this year started very well in Morocco. The government is really supporting the mobile payment ecosystem. They are taking multiple actions to favor such an environment. They have, for example, created a specific body with the regulators and the bank and payments institutions from the country to develop a strong mobile payment ecosystem. So that's a GIE, Groupement d'Intérêt Économique. In addition, they are now also giving tax reduction incentives to the merchants who use mobile payments in their store.
Is that unique for Morocco, or does that happen in other countries as well, this tax break for merchants?
Yes, it appears in other countries as well, but it's often taking a while before that the government can really align with the objective of the financial inclusion body. So with all this recent evolution, positive evolution of the context, we are now very optimistic that our partners, Albright Bank and Buried Cash, will reach their objective by the end of the program, being to develop this payment mobile payment ecosystem.
Well, thanks for that. I think it's important to gather learnings. I think we can all agree whenever you do these projects, there's a lot of learnings that come out of it. Is there one thing that strikes you with the project in Morocco or elsewhere that maybe the listeners would be interested in knowing? What are you learning on the ground after all of these efforts to digitize Morocco?
Yes, so the first learning I would like to highlight is that the regulators appear to be really one of the main drivers of financial inclusion anywhere in the world. The second would be that a bridge or conduit is often needed between the regulators and the FSPs, such as the case of the Groupement d'intérêt économique in Morocco. And finally, but not last, the financial infrastructure is key in extending financial services to understand customers and communities. In the context of the project in Morocco, the important infrastructure element is really the interoperable payment system that was established in the end of last year by the regulators.
Okay, so it looks like government can really help unleash the digital side of banking and payments. Great. Well, thanks, Céline. Maybe, Ian, is there anything you would like to add? Any learnings that you thought have come out of this so far?
I think there's one particular element which is something which we hadn't noticed on previous projects and programs that we've run, but it's certainly become evident in this program, and it's something which our evaluators picked up on, which is that within the countries that we're working in, we're beginning to see that there is a disconnect between different functions of government, between, for example, the treasury functions that are responsible for taxation and the other parts in different ministries which are dealing with financial inclusion. And so what we have found in some instances is, in more than one country, is where taxation policies are actually working against financial inclusion in those countries. And I think this is an issue which needs to be discussed perhaps by, I don't know, some of the international funding agencies, World Bank or whoever, with some of the countries that they're working with.
All right, so there needs to be a little better join up.
A little bit of end-to-end thinking.
Okay, I see. Great. All right, well, keep that in mind as we move forward, I guess, huh? How much longer will the Scale2Save program be running?
Okay, well, this program, I think we should also go back to the fact that we've been on a journey which has started actually quite a long time ago in 2003, and so when the program finishes, I mean, the current work which we've got with Mastercard Foundation will finish in February 2022, but the work will still need to be done well after that, I'm sure. The financial inclusion challenge will not be over by then, and so we'll be looking to see how we can continue the Scale2Save program beyond the current funding cycle.
So 2022 and beyond.
That's right.
As we look to the future, there is change in the wind, Ian, so you will be retiring.
Yes, people in the office are telling me there is a big smile on my face. I think after 25 years at WSBI and 25 years of a 47-year working life, I think it's time to pass the reins on, and I'm absolutely delighted that that Weselina is going to be taking over as program director from the 1st of February. I will be retiring at the end of this week on the 31st of January, and Weselina will be taking the reins from there on. So, Weselina.
So, Weselina, you take over the program at a great time with 10 projects in 6 countries, and we're at the midpoint. So there's a lot of work to be done to finish strong. So what do you think? What do you think of all this?
Well, these are certainly exciting times. We have a very interesting mix of projects, a very diverse portfolio, So obviously, this program is a lot about savings, but not exclusively. So we're developing savings with all projects. We are bundling savings in some cases with microinsurance and microloans. And it will be very interesting for us to understand what are the drivers of low-income people to taking these products. What are the drivers of the business case from a bank's perspective? And we obviously want to understand what these drivers are, and we conduct research to really dig into those drivers.
Great. Well, tell me a little bit more about the research side, because I know this is really an important part of the program. So what did we learn from the research on young people in Africa? Just tell us a headline or two.
So there's a huge opportunity that we see with young people all over Africa to use financial services. There's a big untapped market, and we hope to be able to understand how young people are saving, how their income and expenditure behavior is, and how we can help the partner banks we're working with to better serve those needs.
So banks that want to accelerate financial inclusion should focus on young people in Africa. And I think from the research, it said something to the effect of, understand how they live and get to know their needs better and offer them more, how do you say, appropriate or better products. Is that the essence of it?
Yes, that's the essence of it. It also looks at how people are managing their finances, which is something that we believe we haven't fully understood yet. So there's a lot of research out there that looks at behavior, obviously, but we really wanted to understand how young people, in particular older young people, so we were looking at different segments here, so not just the 15 to 24-year-olds, but also the 25 to 30-year-olds. And we in particular wanted to understand how these people are managing the little money they have, how they contribute to family income, and whether there are extra savings people can put into a savings account.
What if banks don't adapt properly and don't understand this? What would happen? What do you think? Would their take-up suffer, or their use, or would those accounts, do we have this threat that it will fall into dormancy if we don't get a handle of young people?
Well, we already see that banks across the board have a lot of products that are targeting young people, but these products might be adopted, but then what we see is that nothing much happened after the initial deposit has been made. So it is really about understanding how young people save, how they spend their money, and what provides them with a safe and attractive opportunity to put the little amounts they certainly have into a bank account.
Well, if you haven't read it yet, it's good reading, and it covers 3 countries, and there are videos that accompany it. So if you go to the WSBI website or just Google SCALE2SAVE, you will be able to get access to those reports on the site.
I wonder if I could just make an additional comment. I'm sure Weselina won't mind. It's just something which struck me when we did the research and that came out in the report, is that the number of, because of the demographics in the 3 countries that we were researching, the number of young people that are now reaching adulthood, and in particular reaching the age in which they are eligible to open bank accounts, is now growing faster than the growth in financial inclusion. In other words, financial inclusion is slipping behind because of the number of young people that are growing up. This, going forward, will be a continuing challenge unless the financial sectors find a way to address it.
Okay, so the report is for banks and other stakeholders. If they read the findings, and they'll see this. Is that what?
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's there in the. I think it's almost in the. I think it's in the executive summary, isn't it?
Okay.
If I remember right.
All right. So, how are they going to use this? What are they going to do with the findings?
It is a matter of redoubling of efforts at national level, but also obviously international, supported by international programs.
Gotcha. Okay. Right. So this report, like the other two reports, are important for many reasons. Maybe you could shed light on, why these reports matter. Why are we doing this?
Well, the reason we're doing this, I think, is primarily the whole program is a learning program. That's at the core. It's all about how to establish a viable business model in order to serve or promote financial inclusion in the countries that we're working in. So it is fundamentally a learning program. That is an important point. It is to establish the viability of small balance savings. So the research that we produce from this not only goes out to our partner banks, but it also goes out to the broader WSBI membership across the world, to policymakers in Washington, D.C. and elsewhere, and contributes into their learning and their policy formation as well. I mean, that is the ultimate goal apart from supporting our partner banks. The ultimate goal is to get the message into the international programs and the national programs so that policies and projects are adapted, and of course that other financial service providers see what is going on as well. Because I've always had an underlying belief that if you can establish, perhaps a bit oversimplistic, an underlying belief that if you can establish a viable business case to deal with small balance savings, with serving people who are on very, very low incomes, if you can establish a viable business case, then the challenge of financial exclusion will be, if not eliminated, it will certainly be reduced.
I've got you.
And I think there's another element to it, Ian. If we don't see savings just as a mean in itself, and given that a lot of people are talking about how we could contribute and improve employment creation for young people.
Absolutely.
So we see that actually a lot of effort is currently put in contributing to the social development goal that is linked to creating employment opportunities for young people. Then for us the question is, what's our contribution as a program? And I believe the research really provides valuable insights for both FSPs but also policymakers in how to convert the findings into meaningful products, into meaningful policies that at the end of the day contribute to creating employment opportunities for young people.
And taking that a step further, WSBI has for the past, since 2015, been a strategic partner to the World Bank in their Universal Financial Access 2020 initiative. 2020, of course, is this year, so it should be coming to an end. At the UFA 2020 roundtable that I referred to earlier on, where WSBI, the SCALE2SAVE program, was featured very, very heavily. We had to our session there. There was also a session in the same round table concerning what will follow UFA 2020, and the World Bank is starting a dialogue with its strategic partners, of which WSBI is one, which will design whatever comes next. So again, the learning from this program will contribute to that, to the thinking going forward.
Yes, and I mean, we are talking about young people, but obviously the program also targets farmers, women.
Yeah.
So as we're talking about research, for us, it will be really relevant to understand how all these different segments can be better served with the work we do with our partner banks.
I think you've answered a few questions I already had in my battery of questions. So maybe we should look into the future again. And maybe, Céline, maybe you could tell us a little bit more of the research coming up next that will be published hopefully shortly.
Yes, sure. So we will publish next month the second edition of our report, Savings and Retail Banking in Africa. The objective of the report is to show the trend of the efforts done by the WSBI members to drive financial inclusion compared to the previous year, and to compare these results with non-members of WSBI. So maybe I can already mention the main conclusion of the report. So the research revealed that many FSPs regard low-income market as increasingly viable, which is very positive. But it shows also a market marked by intense competition. So to attempt to move into this market, many FSPs have changed the way they charge fees and brand their products. But unfortunately, this has not been enough. The business models were not sufficiently adapted to strive into this challenging market. But some of them have been successful. For example, the FSPs who engage in partnerships, particularly with the fintechs and other smaller institutions, showed the most gains. And this is due to reduced costs and increased efficiency that is within the partnership model.
I see. So partner smartly, and you'll get benefits from that. And it looks like banks have real appetite to go into this lower income segment.
Exactly.
And as Weselina talked about, a lot of those people may be in rural areas. It could be women. It could be women who are in rural areas. So, okay, so that's interesting. All right, well, we look forward to seeing that report when it's out. I know we're working furiously on it, so look forward to that. Well, thank you, all three of you, Céline, Ian, Weselina, and really looking forward to the next time you're on the podcast, and we'll get to learn more about new research and how the projects are shaping up. And thank you to Ian for all of his time here at WSBI and leading the SCALE2SAVE program. Now, the youth research that Weselina talked about, there are a series of 4 videos for that. So the SCALE2SAVE research comes alive on YouTube in anecdotal videos that really show what people on the ground are thinking about, especially young people, when it comes to savings and income and spending. So if you want to see those videos, just type in SCALE2SAVE in YouTube, search, and click on the first video you see. You can't miss it. That's it for this podcast for the week of 27 January 2020. Special thanks to our technical ace, Alexander Duchamont, and WSBI's Ian Radcliffe, Weselina Angelow, and Céline Stevens. To close, we welcome listeners to learn more about SCALE2SAVE. Just type in SCALE2SAVE, that's SCALE, the number 2, SAVE, in your search engine to access more news and information about the program. I'm James Pieper, signing off until next time. Thanks for listening. For more information about WSBI, go to our website, visit us on YouTube, Twitter, and LinkedIn. The podcasts are available on both SoundCloud and YouTube.